Welcome to my first project video. This is an arcade machine that I bought off of Craigslist. You can see it's pretty plain. It is functional. It's just a plain blue color. There's 2 players, 4 buttons each, a first and second player button, and that is pretty much it. There's no graphics. There's nothing on the front. I seen this. I wanted it when I seen it. And I also wanted to work on this when I seen it. So I went and picked it up, and as you can see the inside, there are wires everywhere. This thing was just kind of thrown together. The box is well built, probably too well built, as you'll see in the video. There was a lot of time spent on the actual cabinet, but then when it came to actually wiring up everything, the boards, the joysticks, the buttons, I think it just kind of got thrown together. So once I seen this, I knew for sure I wanted to work on this cabinet. I wanted to redo it. I wanted to make it my own. You know, I've never done anything like this, so it was a challenge for me. I started researching it, getting into it, and I actually had a lot of fun working on this. I've worked on it for quite a while. I think it paid off. You'll see at the end of the video. I kind of changed things as I went, but overall I am very happy with the way that it turned out. So I hope you enjoy the video. It's my first attempt at any project video, so hope it's at least bearable. I also want to, before I start the footage, I also want to thank Howard for coming over and helping me. It was a big help when I went to assemble this thing to have the extra hands there to help wire, to help grab stuff. There was not a lot of room to work in this. The box is a rigid box. It does not come apart like most arcade boxes do. With the little room, it was nice having extra hands in there, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Here we go. So I've got the top off. There's little speakers. They're not very big. Those things are pretty loud. Probably because they're right, head level, aiming basically right at you. I did notice, I don't know if you can see this or not. I was going to start unhooking some wires, and the speaker wires are bare, but there are also, cannot get any light. There are also some bare wires just hanging out outside of the TV, wires exposed, so that's a little scary. My guess is that it's another speaker, or the left or right side, but I'm not totally for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and take those out. I'm going to mark what was hooked up to where, yank out all the wires. There's an on-off switch for the monitor. I actually think I'm going to keep those wires. I'm just going to trim them, tape them up to the TV, and then when it comes to start wiring, I'm going to see where he's actually got these hooked up, and I'm going to unhook those and run new wires to a new button. But that's it with the front off. Let me drop this down. And here's the inside. Move around here. Not bad. Little messy. Ultimately, it doesn't look too bad. I do want to add some hinges here and maybe a magnetic lock so that I can shut it and open it and get access down on this side. I am going to add a few more things, I'll explain as I go, that are not on this currently. I do want to add a couple more buttons. I am going to take the first player, second player off, and I'm actually going to add all the mode buttons for first and second player here. So we'll have 4 buttons here and 4 buttons here. So another reason why it would be important for me to be able to open this door and access everything. So, alright, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to yank out all the wiring, and we'll take out all the buttons and joysticks. We'll see what we got. Alright guys, so we have taken off the controls. And Notice the back is a lot more bare. One thing I noticed, and I actually cut my knuckle open. I'm not exactly sure what the guy was thinking when he made this, but he left screws just hanging out in the back, and I did not see these. I knew there was some up here. Where is it? There it is. And there's one up here. I did not realize that they were this far out on the bottom because of all the wires. I reached my hand in there and caught my knuckle on one of those. I'm sure his intention was that he was never going to get back in this thing. That's okay. I would like it accessible if I ever need to change, upgrade, or, alter anything. So I think I'm going to take a Dremel. I'm going to cut those off as close as I can, flush with the monitor there without hurting the monitor. But we've got everything cleaned up. We've got all the buttons, the joysticks taken off. So the next thing I'm going to do is, because I don't want... So we've got, there was second player, that was first player, and you see the two holes there. That was first player, second player. Well, I do not want those there because I'm going to be adding two buttons on each side to first player and second player, so I kind of need that real estate there. I'm going to cover those up. Like I said, I'm going to do the mode buttons down on the front for each player. So I need to cover these up, and I need to make it where you're not going to know that they were there. I am going to take some dowel. I got some 1-inch dowel. I'm going to put these in there. I'm going to bracket it on the back, and then I'm going to on the top, I'm going to use some wood putty, get it, flattened out, sand it down, and hopefully you will never notice, especially once I get it painted with the enamel and I get the vinyl on it, you'll probably never even tell that it was there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on that. I'm going to fill up those holes, and we'll see where we're at after that. So it's the next morning. I've already been up working on it. I let the wood filler sit overnight. I actually sanded it down, and there was still there were some gaps there. Wasn't completely smooth, so I went in and put another coat on there. I'm going to sand it off here pretty soon. I went ahead and protected the monitor so that no sand or anything would get on there. Plus, I'm going to trim that up because we're going to need it covered when we paint anyways. So the next thing I'm working on actually is the buttons. So the new buttons I got, the holes, as you can see, need to be bigger than the ones that were on there by only 1/8, I believe. So that was a little challenging. I just sanded them out. The next problem is I want to add two buttons, and there's not really a good way to do this. So that's the next thing I'm going to figure out. We'll see what I end up with. I have a feeling it's going to be a pain no matter what I do. I'm thinking I'm going to do 2 more here and 2 more here. And, that'd kind of be a standard setup, even though usually they're turned straighter. I don't have much of a choice. I don't have much room to work with, and I'm definitely not going to dowel every single one of these holes and then re-drill. If I was going to do that, I might as well just start from fresh. So I'm kind of taking what I have, seeing what I can learn from working with what I got here, and then maybe if I end up ever doing one of these again from scratch, I'll have a better idea of what I want to do. We also got all of our encoders and joysticks, buttons. We got all that stuff in this morning. So I'm going to be putting it up so it doesn't get all dirty. Obviously we need this stuff much later in the process, but we do have it. I did buy a kit off of Amazon. Wasn't too bad. Came with basically everything I needed. All the stuff that I wanted to replace anyways. So I'm going to work on the buttons. I'm going to get that going. I'll probably sand this down, and hopefully everything turns out okay. Alright, so I got the holes cut out, and I sanded down the dowels for the second time. this turned into be a huge pain in the butt. This is stuck on here, so you know there's limited room to work underneath here. I did add the extra holes here. I do have one that is a little off. It didn't look too bad with the buttons. Hopefully with the decal on the control panel, you won't even notice. I will always notice. Another problem I had is going up this high. There's wood holding and supporting that control panel, which is right where I was drilling. So I have to have enough room to put the lock nut and for the micro switch down here. So I had to shave and chisel some of that block out. Hopefully you can see that on there. I honestly think some L brackets, some angle brackets on each side probably would have been just fine for support instead of a block of wood. That also would have gave you more real estate on top of the control panel and underneath, but I can't say anything because I probably wouldn't have done any better either, not knowing what I was doing. So I'm going to prep this thing for paint. What I'm going to try to do first is I'm going to get a router and I'm going to cut the slot in each of the sides so that will be good for the T-molding. I actually want to do that before I paint it or before I put the vinyl on it, just so it's done. I don't scratch anything, I don't mess up the paint, I don't mess up the vinyl. So that'll probably be the next thing I do. Then I'll get it prepped for paint, and at that point we're probably going to start looking at the inside. I've got a lot of ideas. We'll see how they work out. And also the very next thing I'll probably do is lay out the buttons in front here, the 4 control buttons for first player, the 4 control buttons for the second player. I'll probably lay those out, drill those, just so it's ready for paint as well when I get to that point. So I had an idea that's turning into be a huge pain in the butt. Hopefully this works out. I've been down here for probably about an hour and a half trying to figure out how I'm gonna lay in 3 buttons in here so that we can pull the drawer or flip the door open, and there'll be 3 buttons there, 2 for start and select, and then the middle one will turn the monitor on and off. We will have a main power switch on the back on the side. This will just turn the monitor on and off, and we can keep the Raspberry Pi on. So this is what I'm doing. I've drawn out this template, I've cut it. I'm going to start sanding it, start getting some rounded edges, and then cut this straight and then mount it on the inside of that door. So hopefully this works out as like I'm hoping it will. I guess you'll find out pretty soon. Alright, so here's the idea. We took the 2 buttons off the top because all I really wanted to be up here was the controls for each player. There's not a lot of real estate here to work with. So I wanted to put the buttons inside the drawer. I wasn't sure if I was going to have something that flipped open or something that pulled out. After working on this and getting the buttons and then getting them in here, I'm not going to be able to tilt this. It's going to hit the buttons. So I'm going to have to get some small slides, like some counter slides, and actually get this to pull straight out. And my idea is we'll get one that's got 2 different settings on it, so we can pull it out this far to go back to the main menu and turn the monitor on. And if we ever need to work on anything in the inside, from the closed position, you'll be able to hit the clips on the back and you'll be able to pull this thing completely out. So that's the idea. I've got this done. I still have, you see, I still have some shaping to do. The general idea is there. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that I didn't run into problems. So yeah, it turned out a little bit better than I thought it was going to. Went ahead and I cut a hole on the side here, and I cut a hole in the back of this. This will mount on the inside with the cover plate so that you can get into my cat. so that you can get into the electrical. I've also bought a cheap switch and a cover plate. And basically what I'm going to do is this will mount here, and then I'm going to have an extension cord going out into the wall, and then I will have a power strip inside, and I will tie those together and run it off of this switch. So the main power to everything will be off of this one switch. I will still have the switch inside the drawer for the monitor because it just needs a signal to turn it on and off. But main power will come through this box. Got all the stuff. Looks like it's going to turn out pretty good. Should be able to keep it pretty clean in there. The next thing that I've been working on is, so I've got these slides here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount these here. Watch out, buddy. Watch out, buddy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount these in here, and the drawer will actually sit here so that we're able to pull out. I also got magnetic latches so that it'll stay, and then I'm going to use, I'm probably going to end up cutting this tab off, but I'm going to use this tab as a safety for when these get pulled out. So I'm going to have a little bar here, a little slotted bar, but they can't see. I'm going to have a little slotted bar here and have it screwed in here so that this can open, but it can only open so far. And if we ever need to get in there to actually take the drawer out and do stuff, we can actually take it off from underneath here and we can access it. So that's it. I'm going to work on getting these put in, and I'm also going to get rid of this. It's alright, it's not really what I want. So I'm going to sand this down straight or flat. I'm going to get this taken off, and I've actually got some conduit clamps. They're about the perfect size. I'm actually going to mount those. I'm going to put a little spacer board, and then I'm actually going to mount those three right onto here instead of using this wood. It's going to look a little bit better. It'll be gray, so it should go in with the Nintendo theme. And I don't know. I didn't really like the way this came out. It was all right for me, quickly just sanding it down. But I'm not a woodworker, so you know, that's the best I could do. I don't like it. I'm gonna do something else. So we'll see how that turns out. But I'm gonna work on that, get this sanded down, and I'm gonna work on getting these mounted. So I've prepped everything for paint. Next thing I need to do is paint this thing. I'm going to paint with some enamel paint. That way it'll be prepared for the vinyl to go on. I'm hoping that works out. I've masked off the front and the back of the monitor. I've also masked off the speakers. Gave it a good cleaning with some cleaner. Got all the dust. I'm ready to go. All my cutting, all my holes, everything other than installing components is done. So I'm going to get this thing painted, probably put a couple coats on it. I'm going to get the inside as much as I can, and then I think I'm going to spray paint the inside as well, just to make sure I cover as much of it as I can. Let that dry. I'm probably going to put a couple coats, and then after that I will probably start installing some of the components on the inside. And I don't know, we'll see how it turns out. We're getting to the final stages of this, so hopefully this works out as well as I planned it to. And here is the finished product. So I think it turned out pretty well. Get a side shot. It was about as much work as I thought it was going to be. A few things changed as I went. Overall, I feel pretty good about it. If I would have started from scratch, I may have been able to save a little bit of money. But, you know, I had no idea what I was getting myself into until I started looking. And then once you research and you start figuring out how to do this stuff, you know, you figure out the best ways to do it. So here's the drawer I was talking about with our 3 lit up buttons inside there. So this would be your start select, would be here, and then the monitor on and off is here. You can see I did the T-molding around all the edges. I got my Excite Bike and the Mario decal. There's a custom marquee. Then obviously the side panels, there's the big power switch that I was talking about earlier in the video. What you didn't see me paint it, you didn't see me route the edges here for the T-molding, and you didn't see the assembly. The point that I was getting to when finishing this, I just wanted to get it done. I had a friend of mine, good friend of mine, Howard, came over, helped me out. Thank you very much. It was nice having the extra hands there when I needed something inside there or to hold wrenches, get stuff. He helped out quite a bit, so that was awesome. So the front's a little bit cleaner looking, new controls, new buttons. So it's not as plain. And I'm going to actually flip this around so we can see the inside of it. Alright, not perfect. But if you remember what this thing looked like beforehand, it was a mess inside there. Really wanted to stay away from that. I like making things clean, accessible. If I ever want to change anything, add stuff, upgrade, whatever, I want to be able to find what I'm looking for and take it out without having to dig through a bunch of wires. So that was my main goal here. You can see here's the power box that goes down to the power strip. I've got plenty of outlets if I ever want to add LEDs, you know, anything else I want to add in there. Obviously there's a Raspberry Pi, the 2 encoders up front. And then I've got my wires zip tied down and kind of ran all up together. So one of the big things that I wanted to change was, you remember we had the wires hanging down here and the speaker wires, and they were just kind of twisted together, and then we had some wires just hanging out here. I wanted to be able to change the volume outside of the program, so I took apart some computer speakers, took the amp out that was inside, and it had a volume control on it. So I actually inserted that in up top. Neither one of these things were here to begin with. And from there, I ran down, hooked up to the speakers inside here. And instead of using that left-right off the speakers, I just went right into the phone jack from the amp down right into the phone jack. And it's worked out pretty well. You know, it's nice having the volume here because not all games come in at the same volume, so it's nice having that there. I've also added a USB hub right here. This will allow me to access the Retropie or the Raspberry Pi without having to get into the back of this cabinet. So that was pretty important for me too. I didn't want to have to move this thing back and forth all the time. There is no back on it currently. I am going to put a back on it. Really wasn't worried about it. I don't feel like it's not finished because the back's not on there. I got it with no back. So I'm not super concerned with it, but I do plan on putting a back, maybe putting a fan on the door, and I'm just, you know, going to hinge it here. We'll put a little latch, and, you know, it's just going to be a simple open door. It's not going to be anything special. Probably just paint it black. But that is what I came up with from what I originally bought on Craigslist. And I'm gotta say, I'm pretty happy. I am pretty happy with what I accomplished on this for the first time of me ever trying to do anything like this. So I hope to make more project videos. This is my first one. Again, thank you. Hopefully it's not too horrible. Really just wanted to get out there showing, documenting what I was doing. and kind of how things change throughout the whole video. So thanks for watching, and hope you guys are doing good.